From Del Rio, Texas, Rob Wade and Robert Garza. Two guys who dive. This episode of Two Guys Who Dive recorded Saturday, 24 November 2012, episode 43, The After Thanksgiving Blues. Welcome once again to another episode of Two Guys Who Dive. I'm your host, Rob Wade, and I'm here with
Robert Garza.
Well, 2 weeks in a row. That's pretty awesome.
I know, right? That's why it is cold outside, guys.
It is a little chilly. As a matter of fact, we just got back from a wedding anniversary, the silver 25th anniversary of some friends of ours, and it was outdoors. Oh,
I bet that made for an interesting evening.
It was a little breezy, of course, and a little colder than we were expecting. It's a beautiful place. I don't know if you know Dan Peterson.
Yeah, I know Dan. Yeah.
You've seen his house.
Oh, yeah.
It is epic proportions. I was waiting for Jed Clampett to come out and jump into the cement pond.
I've seen the house from the outside. I know Edith fairly well.
Yeah.
And but I haven't. I've not been inside the house.
We didn't actually go in. The whole event was held in the back patio area.
Oh, okay,
pool and everything. Gorgeous place. Way too big for something like Tara and I. I mean, just the two of us. But I wouldn't know what to do with all of that. But I was thinking, wow, I could have a really nice podcasting studio in there. But nice area. But golly, it was so breezy and chilly out there. And, of course, it was semi-formal, so...
Oh, okay.
Even I was wearing a three-piece. Even in that, I was getting nippy. I was a little chilled. And, of course, my wife, Tara, our producer, she was, wearing a beautiful dress, but and a shawl, a little like a stole. But, oh, my gosh, it was too chilly for that even. By the time we were getting ready, everybody was starting to leave, you saw people whipping out coats.
Oh, okay.
It was pretty bad. So, here we are in fall in Del Rio, Texas. So,
and the funny thing is with me, this is I've been indoors all day. This is the first time I stepped out coming down here.
Yeah.
And it's been one of those lazy days. It's just, I don't know. Like you said, I think my mood suits the title of the episode here.
Yeah, exactly. And the title episode, again, is The After Thanksgiving Blues. Statistics bear out that that the holiday season is very difficult for a lot of people who, they battle depression or they just have a lot of issues that instead of being cheerful, they're the exact opposite. I don't think my wife and I have ever experienced that, and so it's hard for us to Tara just shook her head and said no. So it's kind of difficult to understand why people would be, depressed in the holiday season, but that's a challenge.
This is a time that you're supposed to be like enjoying family time and doing things, but unfortunately, life does creep up on people, and bad things tend to happen sometimes during this time.
I just stare at it, and it runs away.
Yeah, I know, right? That's yeah. But unfortunately, some people stare at it, and it just overwhelms them.
Yeah,
and
kind of like one of those bad B movies, bad horror flicks.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Zombie attacks.
Working in for the jail for as many years as I did early on in my career, this was always during the difficult time for us, the employees that worked like at the jail, because of the mere fact that these people are incarcerated and they can't be with family,
right?
And the kids come and visit, and it's a very difficult time for them. And you try to feel for them, but there's only so much you can do.
Right.
And it's just a sad situation, and
Yeah, and a lot of times too, folks start the season well. They'll have issues. They're cheerful, and then they go to family, or family comes over for Thanksgiving, and it's interesting. We were having a conversation. Tara and I, of course, are naturalized Texans. We're from elsewhere. She's from Michigan. I'm from Ohio and Missouri. And she really likes her family. I have zero contact with my family. I never really got a serious familial bond. But we have a couple here that we've been in bands and things with their kids. Richard and Narcy Hunkin are kind of like our surrogate mom and dad here, because we're their kids' age, and we've just known them for so long. And we go our regular trek then, for at least for the last 15 years has been going over to their house with the rest of their family and sharing Thanksgiving. It's been great. And we just had a conversation with their daughter, Laura, who is my age. She graduated class of 80 as well. Yeah. And we were talking. She doesn't get to come down that often because she and her kids live up in Dallas. But they go to Gateway Church, by the way. Awesome church. Have you ever heard of Carrie Job? She's one of the worship leaders there. Just awesome vocalist. And so they go to that church. But we were just kind of commenting that we just had a great time. And it's so odd, that we've all heard the stories of people who have a difficult time with going over to family, and they dread it. Like, oh, I got to go over to this step. That my husband's family or my wife's family, and dreading that experience. And they're like, well, if Uncle such and such is going to be there, I know there's going to be a fight, or every time I always have to worry about where I'm going to sit because you never know what's going to happen. They're always going to get an attitude and explode, or somebody's going to say something about somebody's food, and then the fight breaks out, or the drinking gets heavy, and pretty soon, there's a big family brawl going. And I'm like, and we didn't have that. I mean, we don't have that. And, it's not like we all tiptoe on eggshells or anything, but it's interesting that some families go into the season maybe with good spirits, but then they have that first family gathering, and it's more stress than it is happy, and that just starts their spiral.
This is also, again, very ironic. Having Thanksgiving, we went to my mom's house, and I hadn't really sat down and spoken with her in good while,
right?
And it was just, it's funny how I grew up with my my uncles and everybody real tight, going to the house on Saturday or Sundays, to, watch the Dallas Cowboy football games growing up and everything. And, the cookout would then ensue. And then, of course, the unresponsible drinking would occur. And, everybody was having a good time. But, I was asking my mom just on Thanksgiving, I was like, where is everybody? Because I haven't seen them. And we, what's really shameful is that we all live here in the same town, so there's no excuse. It's not like we live one uncle lives in Dallas, one lives in Florida or whatever. We all live here in Del Rio, and we don't see each other. And I think it's just kind of
isn't that amazing? And I've seen that happen before, and even with Tara and I, we'll have people that we know that are fairly close. We have some good friends that live in San Antonio, which that's not like living down the street. I mean, everywhere's close in Del Rio, but they're good friends of ours, and unfortunately, we just don't make trips to San Antonio. Yeah. And they don't typically, even though her mother lives here, Shirley Latham, as a matter of fact, the mother.
Yeah.
They don't. She lives here, but they don't visit that often. And when they do, it's like a flying, zoom in really quick and then get out. And it's not, and we don't feel slighted, and I'm sure they don't feel slighted on the really rare occasions that we actually go to San Antonio. But it's amazing how something could be close, and you could make a fairly minimal effort to visit, but we just don't, because life happens.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the first thing my mom was like, mijo, life happens, and that's just the way it is. And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, you got to make the effort. That's
You're absolutely right.
That's the one thing. It's we live here, and there's no excuse for that.
Right.
So yeah, I think I'm gonna try that. I think I'm gonna try to get all my uncles and everybody kind of back in the scene. Just kind of. I'm not expecting miracles here. But I'm gonna at least make the effort, and that's the only thing I can do.
Well, and that really brings up a larger point that we deal with. As we get older, more of our life is behind us than in front at a certain point. And you realize, you know what? You've spent so much of your life realizing you really did want to connect more with family or friends, and you just allowed life to compartmentalize everything else and leave you such a little sliver of time left that you end up using that for your me time.
Yeah.
But, really everything, like our spiritual walk, it's going to be as healthy as the time that you invest. And it really is a choice. And it really kind of ties into one of the things we're going to be talking about a little bit later in the show, which is why do people lose interest in diving? And all of this kind of ties together. I mean, you get enjoyment out of things that you are invested in. I mean, you look at look at people who, let's look at a dating relationship. As a matter of fact, when you're single and you find somebody you're interested in, it's like they consume your thoughts, and you hear that said in music. You see it in movies. Of like, oh, I can't stop thinking about you. Well, you choose that. That is an active engagement on your part, just like with your family. With religion, with diving, you personally invest in it, and when you do, there is a bit of a chemical reaction that's going on. There is chemistry that happens, and you get your brain produces endorphins that give you excitement. You look at people who exercise incessantly, they're after the rush that they get from that. There's a rush that you get, adrenaline, et cetera, that you get in a new relationship, and with diving or any other sport. Thanks for your commentary there, Gianna.
Kind of like the rush I get doing a night dive when my light goes out and it's pitch black. That's a rush.
No, that's called fear, man.
That's anxiety there.
That's fear. Although adrenaline works that way too. Yeah. That's the fight or flight mechanism. There's nothing, that awkward moment when you realize you forgot to change your batteries. Click.
Or your light floods like mine.
Oh, yeah. That's why we have backups.
Exactly.
Redundancy is key. Absolutely key. That's awesome. So ultimately, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was great.
A lot of people, or
at my mom's house,
right?
Much to, again, my surprise, my sister and my nephew usually go and have, dinner at my mom's house for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
There were no shows this year. They're a little bit of
unannounced no shows, or
no.
In other words, you had the plates sitting there. It's like click, click, click. Where are they?
No, it was expected. A little bit of family drama there. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But and then of course at my in-laws, it was a lot of fun. Usually everybody gets together there at noon, and they kind of invite. My in-laws are very church-going individuals, or used to be, actually, because they kind of stopped that. My father-in-law has a hard time walking now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Sorry
so he has a hard time moving around. So he doesn't get out much. So they kind of invite families that don't have, friends of.
Oh, that's good.
But that don't have anybody nearby or here.
That is awesome.
So they invite them all to come over. Last year we had quite a few people. This year, no one showed up, at least not during the time I was there. I'm not saying that people didn't show up probably later.
Right.
But during the time when we were there having lunch, no one was there. But it was nice. All, my brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws and their families, everybody was there. So it was nice. And like I said, went to my mom's and had time to sit down and talk to my mom. And kind of reflect on certain things, And
I was gonna say, where do you find your conversations go?
This year, normally we just pretty much talk about life and anything that's going on. How she's been. She works at San Antonio Shoes here in Del Rio.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, SAS. She's been there 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
she's got some stories to tell.
Oh yeah,
I know where all the bodies are buried. Right. Nice.
Yeah, her fingers are telling stories right now. The arthritis is kicking in.
Yeah,
but she. We kind of talked a little bit about my retreat and some of the things that I needed to talk to her about.
Yeah.
And, I kind of didn't know how to start the conversation. So I got that rolling, and it opened up. Of course, it spawned a whole,
of course,
arena of issues. And, but luckily I was able to get them out and ironed, and I feel great about it.
Oh,
I really feel good about it. It was something that needed to get done.
Yeah.
And, I feel good. My dad was, of course, a little bit. Well, I don't. I guess he chooses to deal with things his way. He's dad. What can I say? They're kind of old school, but
yeah.
He kind of. I know eventually it will sink in,
right?
And hopefully he will come around. If not, I planted that seed. I did the best.
Was he supportive, or it just he didn't understand it?
No, he just didn't want to hear it. He just, the conversation started, and he kind of made a beeline for the door.
Wow.
But,
give him time.
That's all I can do.
Yeah.
So this Thanksgiving was pretty neat. It was kind of
a different perspective now after going through something.
Oh,
like
absolutely,
that.
yeah. So I'm trying to make, without sounding, not even sounding anything. I don't even know a word for it, but I'm trying to make peace with everybody that I need to make peace with.
That's good.
And because that to me is the one thing that I did learn was the first step in moving forward.
Yes.
And we talked about that, letting things go,
yes.
Guys, you can only carry so much weight at home. Trust me, I'm living proof of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to let things go to move forward. And,
the interesting thing about that particular concept is I found, and maybe this is just me, but I've found that as you discover certain aspects of your life where you've been holding on to things, carrying things that you shouldn't have, you was like, what's the sense of holding on to that? Some things, whether it's a habit that you've had or a grudge that you've had or whatever it is that, it's time to put it to the side. I've found that some things you can and just have to totally drop without ceremony. You just simply stop, whether it's a bad habit or whatever. But in some cases, you have to kind of prepare that. It's kind of like a weightlifter.
Yeah.
There's some kinds of weight lifting where it's like the clean and jerk, and then you just drop it to the floor. You have to, because you can't get it back down correctly without hurting yourself. And then there's other ones that in order to do it correctly, you have to lower it with the same effort that you raised it. And so there's a preparation that you have to go through. So I'm finding that some things in life are similar to that.
Yeah.
You can't, not everything is something you just go, okay, I move on.
No, I mean, and I don't want to kind of get into it, but the whole thing is there are certain things that the ones I am setting down, and there's some that you just got to drop.
Yeah,
and I'm able now to see which are the ones that I need to drop.
Right,
that.
right.
So
it's kind of like if you're diving and you realize, I'm in trouble here. I got an issue.
Exactly.
And sometimes, you should be going through your skill set and doing your problem solving, and you're thinking about, okay, what do I have? I've got to get air. I'm low on air, or I'm out of air, and can I pull off? Can I reach my buddy? No. Okay. So what do I got to do? And you're going through this fast, or you should be going through it fast. And then you realize, okay, I am going to have to do a controlled emergency swimming ascent, which means you're going to forego all of your normal processes of ascending. You're going to be doing the ah sound and taking the Superman pose. You're gonna be swimming to the surface, but you have to prepare for that because you've got to orient yourself. You got to make sure that you have yourself ready to let air out of the BC as you're coming up. There's all this preparation that goes and gets involved because if you do something else, if you don't make that preparation, you may make a mistake and end up hurting yourself coming to the surface. Then there might be another situation where it's so dire that you can't even do the controlled emergency swimming ascent. You know that you're going to be hurt. There's no way to avoid some sort of damage getting to the surface, but at least if you can get to the surface, you can get treated. Obviously, you can't get treated if you're drowned at the bottom of the lake or ocean or whatever. So that's when you decide, okay, this is not going to be pretty. It's going to be painful, but that's the only way I'm going to get to the surface. Right. And that's, that analogy really does work in dealing with things in life too.
It's kind of like, unless you're at depth and, catastrophe hits,
right.
Your hose breaks and you really don't have an alternate air source or anything, your buddy's too far away,
right?
Then that's one thing. But if you're starting to experience issues and hey, look, I'm starting to have kind of problems here, this isn't going well, this isn't, or it just doesn't feel right, then start kind of, if you're at depths, kind of start going back up in case something does happen. You're not 60 or 70 feet underwater, you're at 30 feet or 40 feet or somewhere where you can at least reach the surface.
Well, again, that's all that preparation. And with life experiences too, if you're really paying attention to all the things that you're doing and where you go, you can head off a lot of those problems and avoid them completely. It's kind of like deciding, you know what, I'm not feeling well, and any reason is a good reason to abort a dive. So you could decide, okay, I'm just not going to get into it. I'm not going to get into that relationship. I'm not going to get that situation, not going to get into that habit. I'm not going to do that dive. Or you realize partway into the dive is like, okay, I'm not fully committed here to this dive. I can abort at this point. So you make your preparations and you exit.
Yeah. I would think that one of the biggest things, and I know because this goes through my head sometimes when we're diving, is I hope that nothing goes wrong because I would hate to have you and everybody else cancel the dive because of me,
That's that peer pressure kind of thing.
Okay. And if I go through it, and the thing is, I'm sure a lot of people think that it's like, I can push through it. I'll just keep going forward, knowing that I do not want to cancel this dive. We've planned it. We've done it. We've talked about it for weeks.
Right.
And then you get there and you're like, something happens and you can't dive. Trust me. Don't push it.
Right.
I did it one time and that's when I ran out of air. I started cramping and it was just a bad deal. But hey, luckily my dive partner was not paying attention, but somebody else was.
Somebody else had your back, and that's
somebody else had my back. Yeah,
that's right.
So I believe it was like 65 feet, dark, out of air, cramping, everything all at once.
Right. And it can happen. Even when you're well prepared, it can happen.
Yeah, and it was chilly that night, too.
It was. Just like now. As a matter of fact, speaking of that, we're at the movies, which I'm going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about that. Tara and I were at the movies last night. And, of course, I have my phone, like everybody should. I have my phone on silent, but it was on vibrate. So it's in my back pocket. So suddenly, partway through the movie, my butt's vibrating. And, I'm like, who would be calling me? So I go check the voicemail afterward. And there was somebody out of Uvalde who was friends with Jim.
Oh, okay. All right.
And, talk about the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Also happens to be neighbors with, and I thought you said she moved out of the area, Angela and her husband.
I thought they had.
Nope, they're in Uvalde.
What?
Yes.
She was posting pictures like she was in Colorado.
They might have been visiting or something, but yeah.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, swinging back around the other corner here. So he, and I remember talking to him several weeks ago now. He dove in college, actually did some oceanography work down in Bonaire, Belize, that area, and but then life happened, and he stopped diving. So, I mean, how do you, after that kind of work? I mean, that's fun work.
Yeah.
But after that, he stopped diving, sold all of his gear, and hadn't been diving for years. And then he got remarried and got his wife certified to dive. And so she's a fairly recently certified. So and they're planning a trip to Bonaire.
Oh wow.
Bonaire. And wanted to get some dives in locally. Like, okay, cool. So he wanted to see about, he had talked to Jim, said, hey, can we get some air fills? I said, yeah, depending on what time it is, because I've got a full plate today. Get ready for this anniversary, which I never did finish that story. I need to. We so met them here at 10 o'clock, and they've brought a boat. I mean, it's definitely a fixer-upper, but they've basically kind of set it up to do diving. So they've kind of pulled out a lot of the stuff, and so it's got it's more space for gear. So they're loading up to go out there. Now they brought in all steel tanks. Ooh. Wow! So that took a while to fill those. Yeah. Two 80s, but they were smaller, I guess, because the steel.
The steel can sustain.
So they were smaller, and then two 119s. Those monsters were heavy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, and they were all DIN valve, not the K valve. So I'm like, what? So I hope you have adapters, because nobody around here does.
Nobody does that.
DIN type, unless I think maybe the fire department. I think they may do DIN type.
I have no idea.
Fortunately, he did have adapters. Matter of fact, what was interesting is he had the screw-in adapters that convert, not just for fills, but I mean they convert the actual DIN to regular yoke.
Oh wow!
Which was nice, but he had to remove. He only had 2 for 4 tanks, so we filled up two tanks, and then had to pull the valves pull the adapters out, unscrew them, and then put them in the other ones and fill those up. So they were going to go out to Goodenough Springs, which they were hoping it was the water level is low enough to at least just get to the opening. I said, be safe. Good luck with that. It may be actually low enough now to get to it. And Castle Canyon, I said, if you've and she'd never been diving there. I said, if you guys pull off the Castle Canyon dive, you'll have to tell me how it is, because I said that's my absolute favorite dive at Lake Amistad. So hopefully they're going to text me sometime this evening or tomorrow what the dive was like. I was just curious.
You know, you mentioned Angela. Did they talk to her, or do they know her really well? Or
well, they're neighbors, so yeah. So it was kind of interesting, just kind of seeing what's up with them. They're planning on getting much more involved in diving, and so I guess what we may find is that we potentially may have more hardcore divers coming in to visit from Uvalde than we can get going here.
Yeah,
which is pretty sad.
Yeah, it is. We have a lot. You've certified a lot of people here.
Yeah.
I mean,
they've moved on.
They moved on or something, but
or get pregnant. A lot of them get pregnant. Seems like a lot of them get pregnant.
They get certified. Noticed. They get certified, and they're like, "Hey, have you been diving?" No, I'm pregnant, or I just had my baby.
That seems to be a frequent thing I've had.
Yeah,
that's interesting. So
life. It's life.
Yeah, it is life.
Moving on.
So anyway, we had the traditional Thanksgiving. It was good. The turkey and the dressing, and everybody kind of brought different dishes and shared good conversation.
Well, that's great.
Laura was here with her daughters, of course, and we hadn't seen them since Richard and RC's, her dad's, 50th wedding anniversary. So they were all, growing up. I'm like, golly, you guys were knee high to a grasshopper last time we saw you. And so we just, we're talking about all sorts of stuff. They're very much into tech and, playing with the iPhone, stuff like that. And we were kind of, I was like, well, take a look at this. And so, it was kind of neat chatting with them. Of course, Richard, he's a videographer. He's retired, but he does videography.
Loves his iPad, I take it?
No, he doesn't. he was like, I just can't get the hang of this. And I said, well, you got to want to. With any technology, you got to want to. And I said, talk to your grandchildren here. They probably could get you up to speed on that if you're really, really interested. Yeah. But he's, like, oh, you ought to see, they're so they know this stuff left and right, inside and out. And he's like, they're like you just get this stuff. I said, it's interesting. You can't assume that just because they're young, they get this stuff. Because I deal with people out at the base all the time, totally clueless with technology. Yeah. You put them in front of a computer, and how do you do an email? I mean, it's that bad.
Wow.
I don't understand how we've got a generation now, or even a couple of generations, that don't get this stuff. I mean, the time's going to come when none of this, there will be no analog way of doing stuff. It'll all be electronic and digital. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's my nirvana. Yeah. And, we've grown up with it, and so we've kind of seen it through the earliest, darkest days.
From the beginning.
Yes.
My very first computer had Windows 95.
Wait a minute. Okay, now you're hurting my feelings. Your very first computer had Windows 95? Yeah. That was like the biggest leap. Before Windows 8, that was the biggest leap.
No, hold on.
My very first computer had DOS.
Yeah, okay, DOS.
DOS 1.1.
I'm saying that wasn't my first encounter with a computer.
Oh, your first one you owned.
The first one I owned was Windows 95. Prior to that, it was the DOS-based program. And I never had. I remember just vaguely having a difficult time learning the commands and all of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was real difficult for me. And then lo and behold, bam. Windows 95 came out. Well, Windows 4.0 came out. When did 4.0 come out? Before 95, obviously.
Windows 4?
No, 4.0.
There was no Windows 4.0.
Yeah, there was.
There was Windows 3, 3.0, 3.1, then 3.11, then Windows 95.
There was 4.0, or was that after 95?
You're thinking of Windows NT. Windows NT had Windows. It was NT
4. Yeah, it was 4.
No. Well, eventually it became there was 3, 3.5, and then 4.
Okay, well that was what it was. It was the Windows NT.
That was their big networking platform
at the
time.
The big network.
Back when NetWare was, boy, are we like totally shooting off the deep end for folks watching. That was when NetWare was the networking operating system. I got certified in NetWare.
I remember, dabbling at, Novell back in the day.
Yep.
And the whole, I remember when Windows NT was like the thing, and then all of a sudden Windows 2000 came out.
I loved Windows 2000. Held on to that for a long time.
It was solid. But then I remember a lot of people having difficulties with, I don't like it, doesn't work. And then, it was like murder. And then I remember when Windows 2000 was leaving and everybody was complaining, no, bring it back.
Matter of fact, my servers here were Windows 2000 server for a long time. Mm-hmm. And of course now they're only up to Windows Server 2003, but which is still awesome system. I'm just not ready to fork out the kind of money it would take to bring it to Windows Server 2012.
Yeah, it's one of those things. If it works for you, just continue using it. Yeah. It's
but eventually the hardware and just the security of it.
It's going to
becomes a bigger liability. Speaking of which, just a handful of days left before all support for Windows XP goes out the door. So if you folks out there have a Windows XP machine, you better toss it. You better get yourself. Speaking about preparing for a change, you all need to get with the program. Either if you're going to jump ship and go to Linux or Apple, prep to do so. Or if you're going to stick with the Microsoft platforms, then you need to prep right now to get to move yourself to. I would say just go ahead and make the jump to Windows 8. I mean, but if you have to, if you can't stomach that, go to Windows 7. It's well worth it, and it'll run on a lot of the hardware that you probably already have.
That you're probably already using.
Yeah.
The Windows XP platform was
It was solid.
It was a solid platform. Again, you know, we discussed this sometime a few episodes back. When Windows Vista came out, it got beat down to death with. But then Windows 7 came out and was great.
Yep.
Until now, Windows 8. I still the votes still haven't come in for me on this one yet, but Robert seems to like it.
I am now fully on Windows 8.
Full Windows 8.
Everything that you see going on right now is all Windows 8.
Yeah, so I mean it's great. It wasn't much of a change. The only thing I think they changed was a couple of things, and then of course they added the touch gestures and the Metro interface. Or I'm sorry, it's not Metro no more.
I will continue I'm finding so many of the tech blog heads are still calling it. They're switching back and forth between Metro and Modern UI.
The Modern UI, and so anyway, but it was great. But yes, support will end already pretty soon.
Yep. Just a handful of days. It's like 200
so
or something like
you're
that.
not going to get any more updates for it. Nothing's going to be available for it.
Yep.
So you will have to make that change.
Yeah, you might as well prep for it now. It means if you've got software that's not going to be compatible, start looking at getting upgrades and start looking at ways to back up your data. Unfortunately, there is no direct upgrade path. Previous versions, you could load the CD or whatever, and it would just transfer everything, upgrade everything up to minus drivers, of course, that need to be updated. It would just bring it across to the new operating system. But unless you have already Windows 7, it will not do an in-place upgrade. And I didn't have any problems moving. All of mine were 7. I didn't have any issues moving to it.
One other thing you need to also think about if you bought that machine that has Windows XP and it was originally installed on the machine, the computers have gone down tremendously since that.
Oh my gosh!
You know, you could probably buy 2 computers for the price of that
spent,
one.
That's right.
That one. So it may be time that if that is a machine you're currently using, you may want to make that investment into a newer machine. It's going to be faster. It'll definitely be newer.
And I'll be honest with you, if you didn't take advantage of Black Friday and coming up Cyber Monday, it's just insane the prices that they're letting these machines go for.
You know, I was looking at the Walmart ad here in Del Rio, and they had an HP 15.6-inch laptop for $179.
I know.
I mean,
but those flew off. I did not end up going because there was no protest going on, so I didn't get to go.
But somebody asked me, "Well, is that a good deal?" I'm like, "It doesn't. It doesn't matter. It's running Windows 8. It's gonna be faster. It doesn't matter. It's $179."
I'm like telling you. I mean, there was some really good. I wasn't as interested in the electronic stuff this year as last year, but if you were in the market, there were definite steals there, and then also if you want a 32, and matter of fact, they probably still have a bunch of
TVs,
32-inch TVs, all flying off the shelves at $200 a pop.
Yep.
Too bad they're not high enough res to be a good computer. They're great if you're like sitting in your living room or sitting in your bedroom, whatever, and you've got your computer hooked to it that way, just as a way to watch Netflix or whatever.
Yeah.
But for an actual computer monitor, they need to be higher resolution than that. And I would love to have something that large as a screen. I want that big surface. That's what I want.
I know.
I want that big monster.
He wants to, replace his whole desk with touchscreen.
Wouldn't that be great? I just wouldn't even have to have. I just have my keyboard right below here. That'd be awesome.
Well, the keyboard be integrated onto the screen. Remember?
Well, some of it would, but there'd be times where I want to do the touch type of thing.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I'd probably just do the Bluetooth thing and just set it down wherever I want to.
No, I went 2 years in a row to the Black Friday, and both times, I even commented on that.
It's crazy.
There was fights. You know,
Yeah.
I saw fights both times. And, it was always over the same thing, the Blu-rays. The Blu-ray
What?
DVDs, yeah. I mean, it's not that they were
Really?
fighting for a computer or for a scarf or something. It was the movies, which was pathetic.
Wow.
They put out these huge, aisle things,
Pallets,
like on pallets.
end caps, yeah.
Yeah, end caps, right in the center of the aisles. And they're loaded with, DVDs that are going to be going, for $5 or, $2.99 or whatever.
That shocks me.
And
I would have thought it'd be the TVs and the computers and stuff like that.
No, so then they announced it. Okay, go ahead. And before the employee has a chance to cut the wrapping, the person gets pushed out of the way, and people start ripping. Literally, I saw the employee get knocked to the ground, and we're trying to help her up, and the people were ripping the actual plastic around it. And then we finally get her on her feet. She takes off, and then we look over, and then there's two people on the floor fighting over a movie. You know, the sheriff's office shows up, the police show up, and then people get arrested for fighting over a $3 movie, guys.
That is
pathetic.
Insane.
Pathetic.
That is. That just shows you the kind of society we built. Everybody is so after things. In the religious realm, in the spiritual realm, we call this the mammon spirit, and that is truly what has engulfed a lot of people when they fight over something so stupid.
And then last year there was two at the same time. One again was in the same place in the
Blu-rays.
movies, and then there was one over there by some like the what do you call them? Those
Sounds like
not a crock pot. The what do you call them? Like the things you make a turkey in. A roaster.
Yeah,
they were fighting over roasters.
They had tons of those.
Yeah, somebody got knocked down, and then the person got up and then smack. They went at it. Yeah, they pushed.
Well, they had tons of those. They had tons of the Blu-rays. They had tons of the actual Blu-ray players. They had tons of the 32-inch. I mean, they still had a couple pallets of them.
Yeah.
Still. We're holding out for like a 60-inch, 120 hertz, 1080p LED TV. That's what we're really like.
You know, I was talking with Dominic and yesterday we went to go see Skyfall.
Oh.
And
I'll have to do a review on that too.
Yeah, we went to go see Skyfall, and we were just talking, you know, on the way over there. And he goes, "No, I didn't go to the Black Friday because there wasn't really anything that I wanted to invest money in." He goes, "There is something, but I'm holding off."
Yeah.
And he wants like a 70-inch 3D TV.
What do you?
I mean,
I'll be surprised. At one point I really was thinking that 3D was going to take off, but I'm just not seeing it.
It's a nice. I guess it's one of those nice things, but it's not a must-have.
Yeah.
You know,
I would rather go with the 120 hertz or 240 hertz screens. I look at those, and I don't need 3D because it's like you're looking out your window at the action happening right there. It is so crisp, so clear. My first exposure to that was seeing one of the 120 hertz 50-inch showing the last Transformers movie.
Yeah.
The part where they're saying the building's falling over and all the glass is shattered. I mean, you saw every tiny shard right there, and you kind of felt, if you were standing too close, you kind of felt like you were like brushing the glass off of you. It was incredible.
But you know, it's like he says. I mean, even he himself, Dominic, and you know, he's one of those guys that when something, you know, he fancies something, he's gonna go on and get it.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised that he hasn't gone and get it, you know, to get it. But he just said, "I don't need it right now." It's one of those things that I want it, but
maturity
I don't need it.
Wins over.
Yes.
Delayed gratification.
Good.
See, that's what we like to say.
That's awesome, Dominic.
Yeah.
But no, 2 fights, and the year before that, I saw the lady get knocked down. So it's crazy there.
That is insane.
You know, that's why I was like, be ready to see some fighting because people start fighting.
Well, I was kind of halfway expecting that we might see some fighting going outside the store as I was posting, because you know the news was making a big thing, of course, of the protest of all over the country of employees, you know, trying to create a union, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And so they were trying to boycott, and I'm like, oh no, you don't boycott businesses that are providing jobs. We're in an economy right now where it's an employer's market. You got more jobs or more people than you have jobs. Why would you step on, you know, spit in the face of an employer? We have so many laws in place right now that an employer virtually can't get away with really mistreating their employees. All it takes is one whistleblower, and the Labor Department will come down on them so fast. But even the Labor Department said, well, we don't really see a lot here for you to complain about in this case. So they kind of were hands off on it. And yet, the unions are pushing this. I'm like, why are you cutting your nose off to spite your face? You're employed. You've got 15 other people in your area that can't get a job. And why do you want to do that? Those people would love to go work in your place. If you're,
oh yeah.
And if I were in a bad situation, I'm like, okay, pay me minimum wage. At least it's some income coming in.
Yeah, that, and that's a really good point. I was talking with my mom, like I mentioned earlier, and I asked her, I go, how's my sister? I haven't not seen her. She developed vertigo and has a hard time working because, she tilts her head and she tips over.
Is it an inner ear issue
yeah,
or something?
It's an inner ear issue.
Wow. As a diver, we know that's bad.
Oh, definitely. So, and I asked her, I go, what is she doing? Because I know she's been out of work already for a while.
Right.
And she goes, she's still on unemployment, but it's going to be finishing soon. And I'm
maybe
like,
not. I see there's a push to extend it again.
So I was like, okay, well, what is she going to do? Because if it runs out, I know that, my brother-in-law isn't working either because he's developed some kind of mental breakdown. I don't know what kind of issues he's gotten. I think it's all psychological on him, but anyway, I don't even want to go there because that was part of the conversation, that I had with my mom. But nonetheless, so I was asking her, what are you going to do? And, my mom says, I don't know. I told her, go try to find a job at Walmart. She used to work there.
Yeah.
And, but I don't know, some people, man, they're complaining when I'd be glad to make minimum wage, it's something.
Get your foot in the door. Go work someplace. It's not going to be your first best choice, but do it. Work at a place as if you deserve to be running the place.
Yeah.
Too many times, we'll go to restaurants or whatever.
Special orders.
Yeah. Don't get me started. That was another show. But Tara and I, we're blessed, and so we're blessed to be a blessing. So
yes.
I recognize how hard these waiters and waitresses work. I've been in that business before. I've done a little bit of everything, I think. I've got stories I can tell you. So I can appreciate the hard work they go through and that they deal with customers that aren't like me. Matter of fact, I know they deal with customers who come in just daring them to make a mistake. So all they can do, because they specifically have a goal in mind, to get their meal free. Yeah. There are people that are just that evil. And these poor waiters and waitresses deal with that. But too often I see that they've let those kind of people rule their life. And so they have such a horrible, there's so many of them that have such a horrible countenance. They're like, oh, I'd just rather be here. Anywhere else but here, blah, blah, blah. And they deal with you in that way. And I'm trying my best to pull out of them, you know what? Not every customer is a pain. There are some customers who appreciate that you're providing a service and a product to me, and that I'm willing to pay for and support the business, and we will tip well, very well, if you put in modest effort. If you have a cheery face and you're paying attention, you don't come in just like, well, to cook this, and I don't want to hear blaming this or that. I understand how the business works and that you are not in control of all the, I'm a process guy. Mm-hmm. So I understand you're not in control of the processes, but you are in control of the parts of the process that you're in. And so let me see that you are working as if you own that place. That I appreciate. I recognize, that's excellence right there. That's somebody who has a mindset, you know what? I may be employed as a waiter or waitress making barely above minimum wage and then tips, but I am working as if I am the manager of this restaurant. And so I'm going to make sure that this is the best experience that you have ever had at any restaurant. Yeah. Here, I will make sure that the service is above any expectation you have. That I immediately recognize and I reward.
I agree. Too many people nowadays they just don't care. I mean, they figure,
because they think that's an entitlement mentality. Yeah, we are supposed to help the widow and the orphan. We're supposed to help those who are in need. But when you're living a life with the expectation is like, I should barely have to work to get everything that I need to live in. I'm like, no.
Oh, that is an entirely another whole episode there.
Yep.
I have an issue, with some of the things that actually you're bringing up, and I was talking with Sandy about this, about a lot of the programs that they currently have, like for example in the education system, and I don't want to be very specific,
right? I understand,
but certain programs that allow kids who, for example, are pregnant, and they allow them to attend school and do all of this, but yet I've heard through just comments and things, because
right.
I'm there, and you hear comments, it's like, well, that's not fair. Here I am, I'm doing my best, I'm doing my job, I got a job and everything, but yet they're giving everything to these people and they're unappreciative, because then you hear their comments and they're like, I don't have to worry about it, I'm gonna get it anyway.
Yeah,
that just gets me so pissed.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
It's like, what are we trying to do here? We're setting them up for failure. We're setting them up to think like, it's okay, you're not. Don't
make
worry
any
about
choices that you want. There's no consequences.
There's no consequences.
Yeah.
We're going to give you everything you want and anything you need. And that's why I think a lot of kids or a lot of people go to the jobs now, and they're not vested in the job, like you mentioned, because they don't care. Right. They're not going to be there for the long haul.
Yeah.
But little do they know, if they were to excel at that job, they can take what they learn from there, go somewhere else, and apply that.
Exactly.
And then become better at that, take that, go somewhere else, and then guess what? Pretty soon you're going to be running that place.
Right.
And it's going to be because you put yourself there.
Yeah. If we go down this road,
that's what I was saying. That's a whole episode in itself.
It really is.
Okay,
really
Black Friday.
That's a whole other show. So we're just over Black Friday. Although interestingly,
you see, but we're on the same page, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. High five. High five. Okay, so all right, so we've got Black Friday, which actually now this year started like on Thursday.
Yeah, it was Black Thursday.
Yeah, so it's interesting. They're trying to expand that now.
Anything
and of
for
course,
the money.
Yep, it is. Capitalism's good as long as you got some sense to it.
Yeah.
And then of course for the last several years we've had Cyber Monday. So Cyber Monday's coming up, and so you're going to see a lot of these online deals. So there were a lot of things that I noticed that, for instance, even at Walmart, you only got the deal if you went into the store.
Right.
And so that's to draw people into the brick and mortar places. So now Monday is that, okay, now we have all the stuff that we don't put in brick and mortar, we ship, and we want to sell this stuff because they're obviously stored somewhere. Yeah. And again, lean processes. Now there's this thing that I didn't even realize existed, but evidently this is like a couple of years now been going on. We have Mobile Thursday.
Mobile Thursday. Shopping on your phone.
Well, I guess it's focusing on connected iPads and tablets and mobile phones. In other words, the focus is like a subset of the cyber stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what starts showing up in that arena. So I imagine we'll probably see special deals on cell phones and stuff like that going on, and tablets coming all over the place because you get everybody jumping in the bandwagon now. So it's interesting. Mobile Thursday.
Mobile Thursday. Speaking about mobile devices, and I'm going to just touch this real quick because I know we're pressed for time a little bit. I went into the AT&T store here in Del Rio, and the sales guy.
Which one?
Carlos.
Okay. Yeah, no Carlos.
Carlos, yeah, he's a good guy. He is. He's a real good guy. He right away, his boss, the store manager or the regional director was there. I don't know who he is, but he seemed like a really nice guy too. Yeah. But he was standing behind him, and he had to make the pitch, and he just goes, "Well, we have the iPad Minis right now with they're 16 gig with the actual 3G or 4G service or whatever." They had them for $359.
Yeah.
which to me is not bad when these things are pushing, $600. Some of the original, the iPads, the big ones.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that ain't too bad. Well,
Right.
what is the plan? And of course, he
Right.
went into the plans, but I just found it funny that he just looked at me and goes, well, we have these are the promotions. And my son, Brandon, was like, Dad, when is my service up? And I go, what? He goes, yeah, when is my service up? And I go, I'm not really sure. I can look. Well, he wants the Nokia, the Nokia, the 920. So then he goes, Dad, can I get this phone? And I'm like looking at my wife.
And you're thinking, well, what have I done? I've ruined
like,
my son. I have not raised him properly.
You're possessed. You're possessed.
You've been
What's the
talking to
matter?
Rob, haven't you?
I was like, I just looked at him and I gave him the look of death. Like, you didn't just tell that to me. You just, and then, Carlos looked at, Carlos
Right.
knows I'm pro Mac.
Right.
So Carlos looked at him and he just starts cracking up because he couldn't believe that he said that to me. And I go, we'll talk about this later. And I put the belt to that boy when we got home.
That's funny.
No, I'm just joking.
Funny.
I told him, what, for him, because, he's real into the Xbox and all that other
Yeah.
stuff. I think
I got to admit, that is sweet.
I think, it might be a little more beneficial for him. And I told him, I go, you know what, it might be better for you if we'll look at that when the time
Yeah.
comes, but I'm not against it. It's for him anyway.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was so funny. I
That
had to
is
bring that
hilarious.
up. I'm sorry.
I've been finding more people out the base that I'm like, oh, you have a Windows phone? Oh, you have a Windows phone? I mean, I'm surprised at the number of people that have them and or are getting ready to switch for a number of reasons. And it seems like it's at this point for some of them who were switching, it was more of issue of kind of like what we talked about before, a little bit of Apple burnout. It's, now with the rumors of an iPhone 5S coming out, I'm like, what? Special appearance. Here we go. Our regular weekly appearance by Ronan. There you go. Say hi.
He has
you
to
know what
make
to
it.
do with the microphone. Well, you're not going to do it? There we go. But yeah, I think some people are kind of experiencing that. Not huge numbers by any stretch of that. I don't think Apple is sweating it at all. But,
No, trust me, they're not.
but it is interesting to see people. I have to admit, in spite of Microsoft's really poor job of marketing, I mean, they just don't have it when it comes to that.
And I joke about this seriously, about you should be getting paid by Microsoft because you really talk about their product more than I've heard anything else.
Although their commercials of late have been out there everywhere, and they've been doing a lot of product placement, which has surprised me.
You know what I see more of? I see more of Microsoft pushing the Windows 8, the operating system, not the devices. Yeah, I haven't seen a new commercial of the Surface.
What's the ones I've seen? Well, the most frequent one I've seen is the dancing one, which really does not a lot for me. But I've seen some of the other ones on YouTube that are supposedly out. Well, actually, I've seen the one with the guy that used to be on Saturday Night Live. He's looking for his new Todd. Now, that one's actually, I can't stand the guy, but I think the commercial is kind of funny.
Yeah, he's like, I like Todd, but I don't like him.
Yeah, really, because
he's quitting. Yeah. He's quitting.
So there's, if you go to YouTube, you can see, if you don't see him on TV, there's a number of pretty decent commercials they've got coming out. But now I've been seeing, Nokia has been doing really good with theirs. I'm surprised the HTC hasn't really been. Because they've got a good unit, actually a good couple of units, but I haven't seen a lot of commercials.
I saw one commercial for HTC, which was the first one that I've seen lately for HTC, and it starred Gwen Stefani, the singer for No Doubt.
Wait a minute, she's got a Nokia.
No,
she's got a 920. I've got the commercial.
Was it okay? Was she sitting down? Okay, well, I thought it was
she's
HTC.
talking about doing something. Yeah, no, she's got the Lumia. She's got a red one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you go.
Gwen Stefani. She's a beautiful girl.
Yeah.
And I love her voice. Very, very unique.
She's got like a lazy, exactly unique voice.
She's perfect for ska. Her voice is perfect for ska. Now going totally off the mark here.
All right. So back on track.
Yeah. Right at 9 o'clock. So yeah, we were. we were kind of touching on this earlier.
Mobile Thursday.
Oh, we already took care of Mobile Thursday.
Okay, cool.
So now we're looking at, why do people lose interest in diving? And check out, see if we have anybody in the chat room. Nope. So interestingly, when I got into that conversation with Troy, Connor from Uvalde, it kind of got me sparked thinking about, well, why do people stop? And we've kind of hit some of those. And I was kind of going through the internet and looking at some of the blogs, people complaining about the very same thing, watching their dive. I used to dive for years with my buddy, and now he's kind of not diving as frequently. And so I kind of was able to boil down some of the different things that happen down to really 5 major categories. Of course, you can go into rabbit holes with every one of them, but
we'll stick to the topics.
Yeah. Boredom with the same dives. In other words, they go in the same place. And I even saw this complaint multiple times from people who, well, we always go to the Caribbean. I'm like, and you get bored with that? But yeah, they were getting bored going to the Caribbean. I suppose if you only went to the same place in the Caribbean, yeah, that would get old. But there's so many places in the Caribbean you can go. I mean, we've only been to Cozumel twice. We've been to Utila, Cayman, Curacao. Curacao, I would go easily many more times because the shore diving alone, you could spend a whole week and not hit all the shore dives. And there are just so many good places to go. I just can't see getting bored with that. Unless you've just got insane amounts of money and you can travel many times during the year. I find it hard to believe they'd get bored with that kind of thing. But, diving here, yeah, I guess you could. But we've got so many people that live here only for a short time. They're here for a couple of 3 years because they're part of the military or Border Patrol, and then they move on. I don't understand how you could get bored just getting in the water, just keeping your skills up, even for just a couple of years in the same place. I mean, we go to Balmoral several times a year, and we haven't gotten bored with that yet.
It's granted. I mean, it's such a small area. You do one dive, and it's kind of like, okay, I've already seen that rock 6 or 7 times, but it's still. I mean, it's just nice to be in the water. I guess there are people out there that just want to see certain things.
They've got to get a thrill a minute, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. We can dive here at the lake, and I can go to the big boat every time, and every time I see it like
something a little different.
It just, I don't know. It's just so cool to see it.
Now, if we can get an aircraft and sink it out there, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Oh man, that would be so awesome.
I'm still trying to work that angle. If we can just get a crashed aircraft, crash. I'll tell you what, just crash one out the lake. Just punch out and nosedive it.
But we got to give you coordinates because it's got to be right in the right spot.
Yeah, that's right.
But I still get a thrill out of that, and I don't even going like for the clips. Every time we see them, it's always different.
Yes. Yeah.
And then of course we stumbled onto the abyss, which, because of depth and temperature, I remember, that still leads, to more exploration for us.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's still a lot more that we need to see.
That we haven't seen yet.
But I think it would be great once you get that, your camera.
Yes.
Your video camera to videotape some of that, because I'd like to see some footage on.
Yeah.
Some high-def footage on that bad boy.
Sea Life DC 1400 Duo Pro.
So,
Yeah.
But there's just so many things to see. That's crazy.
Yep. So one of the other things that showed up frequently as a reason is other activities. In other words, they get another interest that takes, and it's not necessarily a sport per se. A couple of people said, my buddy got into motorcycles, and now if it doesn't involve a Harley, he doesn't want to do it anymore. I'm like, it's all compartmentalization. It's all deciding, okay, you don't have to give up one activity for another if you work your time right. I guess the variety is the spice of life, and that's fine. But diving has so much that you can do if you choose to expand your experience. Patty pushes the continuing education. And so you get your basic, you get your advanced, you can go a number of specialties that open you up. Now, I'm not certified to teach a lot of specialties. There's a few that I'm certified to teach, but for the most part, you can go to bigger dive operations, usually within an easy driving distance, and get tons of specialties that open up your diving experience. It's all the 3 E's. You get your education, get your equipment, and you get your experience. And so, get certified to do enriched air diving. Then go places where you can spend longer down there. Get your certification in, wreck diving. And then learn, instead of just diving on the top, the superstructure of wrecks, you actually can go into them. So, I mean, there's things that can change places you've been diving for years that adds a whole new aspect of it. Instead of looking for a new or totally giving up diving for some other activity, expand what the diving activity is for you. Mm-hmm. There's so many opportunities to do that. I think people miss out on that.
I agree totally.
Look at you. You're moving up to ultimately to become an instructor. So that opens up new things for you all the time.
And when we discuss this with these gentlemen from Uvalde, I remember telling them, what are you going for? Well, I want to do this. Go for it.
That's right.
Up to now, I mean, I'm still, working towards my ultimate goal, which is instructor, like you mentioned.
Right.
But to me, my fondest training as far as diving has been the rescue diver course.
Yeah.
Because it totally honed in on all the skills that I've been working for up to that part.
Right.
It makes you a much more cautious diver. It makes you aware of your surroundings, other divers, situations, your setup. It really helped me out in that aspect. The way that I was used to wear my gear,
right,
to the way that I wear it now, because now it's like I'm thinking more of what if?
Right.
And the importance of your dive buddy knowing your setup and looking at their setup. Okay, well, if I have to take that thing off, is it going to give me trouble?
Exactly.
Just different. It just opened my eyes to an entirely different experience with that. So I encourage a lot of people, and I think I've said it before, at least get your rescue diver. If you want to stop there, that's fine, but at least get your rescue, because it'll definitely give you that confidence. If you don't have it, it will give it to you.
And we've talked before about getting folks who are spun up as rescue divers and actually working scenarios on a regular, integrating ourselves to the degree that we can with law enforcement, helping those folks and the emergency first responders, because they have dive teams, etc. But it's great to know that we could augment in a really bad situation, because we may not have seen the last of the floods that come through Del Rio and surrounding area. So we may find that we have a situation where, guess what? They're overwhelmed with the need for competent, trained, certified divers to assist if we got another one of those 50-year floods.
Yeah.
Because it could happen.
No.
I mean, we've got December 21st of 2012 coming up.
That's right. I've seen the movie.
Yes, great movie. I still love watching it, even though it's totally preposterous. But it's some great CGI. Okay, family challenges, and how those can be. This is, I guess, what would help. There are some things. There are challenges in the family. I guess you just. There is no way to bridge the two, and you do have to kind of step away. But I think that there's an opportunity there to, if you feel that you've been taking too much time away from family for diving, which can happen, and it's a very real concern, as much as is possible and reasonable, try to bring them into the sport.
Yeah.
Which you've been making some effort to do, and we still may succeed here. But the thing is, we've been through, we've taught families before. It is great to see a husband and wife go through the course. It's great to see parents who are diving. The Batistas, perfect example.
Yeah.
They were certified for years, and then I got to teach all their kids in one swoop. It was a great class, and they went off and had a great time in a dive excursion to Caribbean somewhere.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing that is like, okay, now they're part of the activity. They're no longer, well, there goes dad or mom off to go diving again. They were like, okay, let me get my gear. You know, everybody's loading up their gear, ready to go.
That for me is one of those obstacles that I hope to overcome.
Yeah.
Getting, my two boys, which is one, he's 10, so he's
technically at the age.
He's at the age.
You just have to decide if he's mature enough to go through the course.
Right. As far as maturity, I don't want to say that he isn't mature enough to go through it. I don't want to push him through it.
Right.
He's mentioned interest in it,
Yeah.
and so I'm kind of nibbling at that.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll spawn into a full let's do it commitment.
Yeah.
But right now the biggest concern is that he's not a very good skilled swimmer.
Yeah.
So I want to build his swimming confidence up
There you
before
go.
we actually throw him into the water.
Yeah.
And then of course Sandy, well, that's something that's work in progress.
Yeah.
But she hasn't told me she's not for it, which is great.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'll ask her, hey, do you interested in getting back into the water? She's like, well, I haven't thought about it. And I go, well,
she did such a great job in the pool.
yeah.
Yeah, I think Balmorhea is the best opportunity for her.
I think so too. I think so too. So maybe this coming summer, maybe we can hopefully do something for that. But
cool.
So we'll see.
Okay, and of course, cost. I look at it this way, and I had this exact conversation with Troy and his wife.
Troy.
If you're already paying to get certified, you've already taken the biggest leap that there is with it, because that's a commitment that's not just money, but it's also of heart. Why would you go through all of that, overcoming your own fears, etc., to gain the certification and then not go ahead and plan like any other sport or hobby or endeavor to go ahead and invest in what will help keep that on going? If it's so inexpensive to get a basic set of gear these days, you can get a basic set of gear for almost cheaper than you can get a decent computer. And it's so easy to do that opens up, means that you no longer are waiting to see if you can find a place that rents gear. You've got your gear. Now you're looking for a buddy. And if you tie that in with get your family certified, get them involved in the sport, then you've got built-in dive buddies.
You and I dive, we used to dive a lot. But,
Yeah.
I mean, we still dive, occasionally. And I hope to change that, this coming season.
Yeah.
But, like you have Tara, if you guys want to go out for a dive, you can just go for a dive. I mean, he's got his family, and I think that's great. Is his wife certified already?
Yes.
Oh, she is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, we're not talking about Troy McGonigal. We're talking about Troy Connor from Uvalde.
Oh, okay. You threw me off when you said Troy.
Sorry. Got two Troys now.
You got two Troys. Okay. I thought you were talking about the coffee drinker.
Spit take.
Okay.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. I was a little confused. I thought we were talking about Troy.
Consider yourself deconfused.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, I mean, he doesn't have gear then?
Who?
He sold it, right? True. You said Troy sold
it. But he bought new gear, and that's where they got these tanks and everything. Steel tanks.
So he bought brand new steel tanks, or were they?
Yeah, they were brand new.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
He made an investment there.
Yeah, no kidding. Those are pricey.
Very. Just to give you an idea, I mean, even at a good price, you're looking at $300 plus just for one. He had 4, you said?
Yeah, 2 80s and 2 119s.
Wow.
Yikes.
Well, he made an investment.
Those were heavy. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Okay, yeah, well.
Yeah. So, and then of course there's the trips that you go on. That's an ongoing cost. But then, any vacation you go on, if you were going to be vacationing, it's going to cost you. You can mitigate some of those costs by having certain things paid in advance, or go to places where, if you bring your own stuff, like Balmoral is a perfect example. You're out the cost of the drive up and back, a place to stay or camping spot, which is $12. And the admittance fee to the park, which is what, $8, $9, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not expensive.
No.
And we make that trip, a number of times during the year, and it's a great fun time to see something a little bit different than what we see right out our back door. It doesn't have to be expensive.
The last time Dominic and I were there, you didn't make it.
Right.
It was just he and I, and we went, and there's so many people at the park.
Yeah.
We ran into those tourists. There were 2 girls from France.
Yeah.
And like 2 girls and like 4 guys from Japan.
They had a lot of cameras.
They had a lot of cameras. They were like, "Can you take our picture?" Dominic became a professional photographer, for God's sake,
They smoke like chimneys?
No, they weren't
Okay.
smoking.
I'm surprised.
Well, they weren't smoking in the park, but I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if they were smoking, but it was so cool because it's like, I remember asking one of the guys from Japan, and he spoke, decent English, and I go,
yeah.
"What are you doing here?" He goes, "We heard about this, so we just thought we'd come
I
out."
heard about Balmoral.
Well, the thing is, they're jumping around, visiting different sites.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think they had just come from San Diego, from California, and they stopped off, but they were taking a tour, and they were stopping
That's
everywhere
funny.
and taking pictures. So I
That
thought
is
that was
funny.
pretty cool. The 2 French girls, you could tell they were European. I mean,
Right.
that was like,
Shave their armpits.
yeah, well, they were shaved, but they stood out in their suits, Rob. I mean, I'm going to say,
sure they did.
okay. I mean, they're used to they're European.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they just have.
Did Dominic make a fool of himself?
No, he didn't.
I'm proud of
He
him.
didn't want to get back in the water though.
Oh.
He wanted to stay talking.
Yeah,
I
of
go,
course.
man, we're daylight.
Right. This is like
Daylight.
we're running out of time we can dive, dude.
Yeah. So, but no, it turned out cool. But there's so many people you can meet at Balmoral, and for
Yeah.
example, we met a couple of people from Japan and some
Right.
people from France, and I mean,
Yeah.
it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, last one that showed up frequently was convenience. Well, there's not a place here locally. Again, that kind of goes with the look at opportunities that you have that you never thought of before. There are always lakes. There are always even rivers. I mean, we can go diving out here and have gone diving out here at San Felipe Creek, which is 8 feet maybe in a couple of spots. But it still offers up a little bit of an opportunity to hone your skills of a certain type, diving in a current. And there are opportunities to be found that are more convenient than the first thing that we all think of as divers is going to saltwater, going to coral reefs, or even going to a lake. There are opportunities you can take advantage of. You've just got to network with people, get people together who are also divers, and do those searches. We've never thought to dive here before. There are so many places that we haven't even in the local area that we've not gone diving before.
Right. You see, but that's the other thing too, because we do network. We've actually been able to go diving in places that
Your average diver won't ever
we'll
get
ever get to get a chance to go.
That's right.
And I remember diving in that the little black hole, out there by the ranch, Atlanta, where that guy lost the ring.
That was awesome.
I mean, who would have known? The
It
guy
literally
had
was a pond, but it was
in his backyard.
one of the springs, and it was awesome.
Yeah, and if you go to Google Maps, if you go to, because I know where it was or where it is,
Right.
you can actually see the little dot, the actual, from the maps over.
Nice.
Yeah, you just see the
Nice.
little blue hole,
Yeah.
and it's like I can say, you see that? I dove that.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so it was pretty neat.
So there are places that are more convenient than you may give credit for if you just expand what your concept of diving is. If you're a gung-ho diver, I've got to have 2 tanks on my back with dual hoses and go the deepest I can possibly go, then you don't have the right attitude for this anyway. But if you are just looking for convenience of diving opportunities, look at places that you wouldn't normally think of as a dive. You'd be amazed at what you can find. Even in just 5 feet of water, there's amazing things that you can see if you're willing to look. I mean, Trish had told us about that other place that was kind of like Balmarais, but they have much more limited opportunities to dive. And I definitely, from the pictures that she took, I definitely want to do the dive there, and it's not that far away.
Right.
So there are opportunities that are more convenient to at least keep your skills up, broaden your opportunities, so that fills in the gap between those times that you're going to really, really awesome, saltwater, reefs, stuff like that. Okay, we're running late as usual, but that's okay. Couple of reviews. You said you and Dominic went to see Skyfall.
I went to go see Skyfall. I've not seen Red Dawn yet.
Okay.
But I have read that I actually posted something on Twitter about Red Dawn. Did you catch that?
I don't know if I did or not.
Well, anyway, the original actor, C. Thomas Howell, that came out in the original Red Dawn, actually is bashing this movie.
What?
Yeah, he gave it. If I would have brought, I would have known. I would have brought it to talk about it. But he was pretty much disappointed because it's not realistic. It's not something that can really happen. He goes on talking about Korea and that they can't even afford to invade themselves, let alone us. In other words, he wanted to keep it realistic. Pick somebody.
Well, okay, I don't think he's taking into consideration, and I don't want to give any spoilers away just yet, but I don't think he's taking into consideration that this version of the movie takes into consideration the dynamics of economy and different nations working together now, whereas the original movie, it was all about Russia and Cuba.
Right, Cuba.
And there were dynamics already there that made that at least basically plausible. There are dynamics involved here which are kind of, unlike the first movie, this one kind of sets up what led up to this potentially happening. And it's all believable stuff because it's all things that really have happened. I mean, a lot of it is actual historical clips. And then some of it is, if it continues the way it's going, this is what we'll probably see as alliances coming up. And maybe they couldn't afford, maybe Korea couldn't afford to do it, but they've got one of the largest armies in existence. And so it's all about who's financing who.
Okay, well, I actually brought it up, and it just says the Red Dawn 2012, which stars Josh Hutcherson and Chris Hemsworth, originally featured China as the enemy, but the filmmakers changed it to North Korea post-production.
Yes, originally it was China.
Yeah, so he just put, quite frankly, as we all know, North Korea can't afford to invade themselves. How's that going to happen? Asks Hal. He goes, it's already stupid in my book. So, maybe
here's the thing.
Maybe he's sore he didn't get asked to come out in it.
Well, because I know the history of the making of this movie. It was actually ready 2 years ago. And because of the dynamics of politics going on at the time, they kept delaying it. And so I'm sure that the major driver, although really China is hinted at in here. And so I think to me, it's clear that China is a big push behind all this because they have the North Koreans basically in their back pocket.
Yeah.
And Russia still figures in it because they're supplying weapons and military equipment to a number of those folks. They're little whores when it comes to that. They'll sell to anybody.
Oh, their economy. I mean, we're here complaining about ours.
Yeah.
I mean, theirs are horrible.
Yeah.
So just I have not seen it, and I intend to see it. So what do you give it? A thumbs up? Thumbs down?
I give it a thumbs up. I do give it a thumbs up. I actually liked the ending a little bit better in this one
than
the first one.
Oh, okay.
There are definitely things about, I'm very nostalgic, the 80s, and I really did like, and every time it comes on, I find myself,
watching
the original, I do find myself watching it. This one even more so because I'm at a different place in my life. This one actually fired me up more. I'll be honest with you. I'm seriously fired up to step up my support of Second Amendment rights.
The right to bear arms.
Big time. Especially since the winds of change seem to be pointing towards UN and et cetera, looking to try to take that, or at least significantly reduce it. The anti-gun ownership cadre is really stepping up their march this time. They feel empowered. That I'm sorry. I'll take my cue from Charlton Heston, from my cold dead hands. So,
I remember when they were making a big push to try to ban a lot of the assault weapons. They were very successful in banning a good number of them. Of course, if you're military law enforcement, it doesn't apply to you.
Right.
That's why I'm law enforcement. But
nice.
And I remember they restricted a lot of the ammunition that was being available to the general, to basic civilian.
Right.
They changed it and only made it available for law enforcement. And I remember I bought a lot of that post of, I bought it before they actually took it off the civilian market. And then they reissued that same ammunition, but in the law enforcement, all they did was just put in a plain white box. It's the same bullet. They put it in a white box with a ray label that says, that says, law enforcement ammunition.
It's gun porn.
Gun porn. And I think what I'll do is next episode I'll actually bring. I still have it. I'll bring a box of that.
Yeah.
Because it was so expensive when I got it that I don't even want to shoot it. But they made a big thing about that, and they figured, what, we can't trample on the Second Amendment. We can't not prevent them from owning firearms. However, we can regulate the bullets. Nothing says they got to have the bullets. So that is what I remember Obama did. So now it even affected us in law enforcement because
turned everybody into Barney Fife. Let me get my bullet out.
Well, what happened was even not necessarily so much now, but there was a time there that it was hard for even law enforcement agencies to get ammunition for the departments because there wasn't enough being manufactured.
That's scary.
What was being manufactured was being, of course, sold, not so much for us because, of course, we're buying it, but we get it at a discount.
Right.
So where's the market share at?
Military.
The general public.
Oh yeah.
So they're selling it. Why am I going to sell you a box of bullets? You're law enforcement. I'm going to sell it to you for $15 when I can sell it over for $30.
Right.
And that's what they're doing. Yeah. They're trying to make the money.
Yeah.
So I remember like calling places and saying, I need ammunition because we're going to do annual qualifications, and they're like, we don't have any.
Wow.
Well, what do you mean you don't have? We don't have it. We just don't have it. So then when the actual ammunition did come in, we were restricted to, we can only sell you 6 boxes of this, 6 boxes
6 to
of
a
that.
customer.
Well, 6 for each individual because everything was being regulated.
Wow.
And I was like, what's going on here? So it was really pathetic, and that kind of sort of went away now.
For now. But we'll,
gosh, man, it was
change,
bad.
Man.
Anyway,
Scary.
I'm sorry, I'm on my soapbox.
That's okay. I'm right there with you. So while the advantage this time is, and this much is actually out there on the clips and internet. Hemsworth's character is actually a vet. He's actually current active duty Marine.
Okay.
So unlike the original, where none of them had any military experience, he does. So he kind of knows, and having been in Iraq,
okay,
he knows how to kind of, all right, I got to turn you guys into something here. So that made some of the things that happened later more acceptable.
Okay.
It wouldn't have worked. What they ended up being able to accomplish would not have worked in the way that the original movie was done. So I really appreciate the dynamic of the new movie. A lot of the very same elements, critical plot turning points are there. You just have to kind of figure out, okay, who is it coming from? Who's going to represent that aspect of the original movie? And I totally blew my guess on one. I thought I had nailed this one aspect of it. When you get to it, you'll when you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. I was like, oh, I know exactly where this good grief, Graza. I know where this is going to come from, and I was wrong. I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming.
Oh, wow.
Oh, good grief. Let me arrest my dog here. Graza.
She's over here by the light.
You brought all the toys in here to squeak.
There you go.
Come here. So, okay. But I think it had a better ending than the first
cool.
one.
Well,
I was still like, oh, really? You had a chance to redo this and you had to do that? I'm like, oh, come on. But it was still, it had a good ending. For all I know, they could have set it up for a sequel.
Some of the movies that I've seen here lately, I think that's what exactly they're doing. They're leaving themselves open in case it does well. Let's go ahead and let's pursue that.
Red Dawn 2.
Red Dawn 2. Now China is actually going to get involved.
Yeah, exactly.
But now I went to go see Skyfall.
Okay.
And I really liked it. A lot of people kind of, gave it reviews of like it's the best Bond ever. It was a 50th anniversary, and I kind of like Daniel Craig playing Bond. I do not like him at all. To me, I like him better than Pierce Brosnan.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I liked GoldenEye when Pierce made his first debut, but after that, Dominic and I were talking about this last night as well. After that, things started getting kind of wacky, invisible cars and, it just...
Well, actually, speaking of invisible cars...
Uh-oh, here comes Rob.
There is a technology out that uses cameras to project on one side of a surface of something, even clothing. What's on one side projects it to the other. So for all intents and purposes, from that perspective, it makes it invisible. But it does require you to make sure that whoever's observing is on the opposite side.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool seeing this tech demonstrated.
But seeing it, I liked it compared to some of them. It was kind of, it dragged out a little bit, the action.
Skyfall?
Yeah.
Really? Some of the clips, of course, maybe these clips were all the exciting parts, but, like the whole
Have you
train
seen
thing.
it?
No.
Okay, then I'm not going to disclose too much then. It was a really good movie. The parts that you saw were probably just few shots because it tends to drag out a little bit. I like the fact that it's cool because it came full circle. The ending of the movie brings it back to the way it's supposed to be. It brought it back to quintessential Bond. Here's the thing. If you remember from the first shows, the first original movies, with Sean Connery and Roger Moore, when Roger Moore would get called in to visit with the head, M, where did it always take place?
It was always in her office.
In an office, right? And they used to have to go through the door with the padding. You ever recall that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know how here lately the James Bonds were, lavish, glass offices, it became very modernistic.
Right.
Okay. Well,
just walked into in the office and talked with Miss Moneypenny. And
okay. Well, you know how kind of Moneypenny had disappeared a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, at the end of this one, it comes back to that.
Oh, okay.
There's a new M. I'll give you that much. There's a new M, and
so Dame Judy, what's her?
Judi Dench.
Dench, yeah, she's
still there.
Oh,
yeah, no, she's still there.
She's retired.
No, actually, doesn't retire. It's
she gets promoted.
She kind of gets
she's
promoted.
Now N.
She's now N. Yeah, she moved up. She's C now, and she's C.
Well, that's right, because it'd be the lower numbers because Q is
Q. So
oh, seriously, a kid as Q?
That blew me away. That was like
that's not right.
Do you even know what the Q stands for?
No.
The letter Q, there's a word behind it.
Oh, really?
He just calls
Blurts
people.
it out.
Yeah, it's actually for quartermaster.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Holder
that's
of
his
all the
quartermaster
materials.
of all the material.
Yeah.
So he goes, okay. So he calls him. He goes, "You're gonna meet your quartermaster." And we're like, "Is that Q?" And then sure enough, the kid sits down, gives him his gun and all his
Right.
gadgets, and he just looks at him. Okay, Q. And the kid gets up and walks away. But that
Interesting. Oh, interesting.
new message.
Yes.
But anyway, it comes full circle, and it originally starts like that. You meet Moneypenny. James Bond walks in and meets Moneypenny,
Yeah.
and she introduces herself as Miss Moneypenny, and then
Got a squeaky dog here. Go for it.
and then it looks like that.
Huh.
It ends right there, and it's actually a cool ending. It just brings it back to the
Okay.
original.
Oh, good grief. Okay,
So,
so
but
what do
good
you
movie.
give it? Thumbs up? Thumbs up?
I give it a thumbs up because it brought it back to the original. I thought
Okay.
I really I'm a big fan of the original James
Yeah,
Bonds,
me
and I thought it had
too.
just kind of
Yeah.
sort of gone, in one direction,
Agreed.
and I think they kicked it back to where it needed to be.
Awesome. Okay, just a little plug here. I am starting to look into expanding the programming here, so I'm kind of in development of a another.
We're testing dog
Yeah,
exactly. Toys and
Yeah,
different
exactly.
things.
That's what it is. That's right. I'm pound testing. No, I'm looking at developing a more contemporary political podcast called Just the Right Spot. So I'll be looking at trying to get one or two like-minded conservatives involved in talking about all sorts of things from, politics, religion, tech, economy, all those kinds of things. Because I think just this area needs a little bit of that voice, and it just gives me an opportunity to kind of step on soapbox that I really can't do too much on this program, or I really try to keep too much away from it too much. So I'll be putting more information out on the web on that, but that's just some work that I'm doing here. So next, and just about finishing up here, let's hit real quick our trips, training, and tech, which we kind of talked about the tech already. Next Dive Club meeting, December 20th at Rudy's Restaurant, right before Christmas.
Yeah.
Love to have you all come out there. It was great having the guys from Uvalde. It looks like we may have a couple more from Uvalde. This may become more of a Uvalde Dive Club at this rate. We really encourage you to participate. It's a lot of fun, especially if you're a diver or just interested in trying it out. We can set up a Discover Scuba opportunity for you easily. Oh, God. I'm making my wire-haired dachshund very, very happy because I'm scratching her neck. And then our trips to Balmorhea for next year, we were talking about that also. 17 through 19 May, 14 through 16 June, 19 through 21 July, and our annual varsity, 16 through 18 August. So sign up for one or more of those. Just go out to their website and you can sign up for one of their camping spots or cabins, or check out one of the other hotels in the area. It's some great relaxing diving out of Balmorhea. We just have a great time.
If you are planning on attending one of these dates that Rob posted up there, I strongly urge that you try to make the reservations if you're planning on staying in the park like now.
Yep.
You can go ahead and just reserve it. It doesn't mean that you have to, of course, keep your reservation.
Right.
But if you want to actually stay on the park, and you are planning on diving, it does make it easier because you're pretty close. You don't have to go too far.
Yep.
But these places sell out quick. I mean, they get booked up early in the year, so try to jump on that as soon as possible.
And I tell you, diving is therapeutic. So if you want to avoid the after Thanksgiving blues, you can get out there and do some diving. I was talking to Troy and his wife, and they were saying
which Troy?
From Uvalde.
Okay.
And I said, because they were out there a couple of weeks ago, and they said, I said, well, what were you diving in? Oh, we were at 3 mil shorties. I'm like, oh, you're brave. I'm already in my 5 mil full.
Yeah, I know that you've dove at Bomberay with a shorty. For me, the water is just a little. It's tolerable, but I like to enjoy, because we're in the water for like an hour.
Yeah, easily.
So I normally dive and I go up there with my 5 mil full, and granted that it's I think overkill for that area, but I am just so comfortable. I can be in the water for an hour plus. And
in defense, that only works for me because I'm not a fan of cold. That only works for me when the weather is really, really warm because I know when I get out, I'm going to warm up quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But during this time of the year, if we were doing a dive, absolutely. Even though the water temperature stays the same, I mean, it's like when we dove at the spring here.
It's getting out.
We were in our 7 mils at that point. The water was comfortable. It was way comfortable. It was actually hot.
It was hot. It felt like I was taking a warm bath.
Exactly. But getting out, that's the killer right there. So.
It was nippy. Jack Frost was definitely
nipping at the toes, the nose, every other appendage you could think of.
And real quick, just the other day we actually went to go see. Well, yesterday was it yesterday? No, it was
Twilight.
Before. No, I actually did go see Twilight though. I did go see Twilight, and I think probably all of Del Rio's either gone to go see it.
Except me.
Robert is Team Jacob.
No,
but. Oh, you're Team Edward.
No, Team Scuba.
Okay.
Scuba Dog.
Well, anyway, the ending, if you have not seen it, the ending is really will throw you off. That's pretty much the whole movie. I mean, it's an awesome fight scene, but the ending just kind of throws you a loop. So if you haven't seen it,
was all a dream.
If you have not seen it, you got to see it.
Speaking of James Bond.
Yeah, speaking of James.
So
that's Money Penny calling me now.
Really, yeah. So this was supposed to be the last one.
Yes, and it is. But somewhere I read that she's actually gonna, I think, write another book.
Of course.
To the same story, and that's probably gonna turn it into a movie also, because of course the franchise was so big.
Yeah.
I mean,
turn down money, guaranteed money.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But they actually ended this one also to where it left it open to another movie. So if she writes another book, it can keep going on for a while because the actual movie or the movies actually, if you've seen it, has to do with the Volturi, and they kind of leave things like we're going to be watching kind of sort of thing. So they're already looking at possibly writing another.
Keep an eye out on you. I'm watching you watching.
Yeah, exactly. So that Robert's Team Jacob. So
what does that even mean? What does that even mean?
When the movies first came out, it was between this guy named Edward Cullen, which is the vampire.
Okay.
And Jacob.
Marley? No.
Jacob Blackwater. I don't know his nose. Anyway, but it was Jacob and Edward. And the thing is, since they were fighting each other for this girl, the affection of this one girl.
They're both vampires or what?
No, one is a werewolf, one is a vampire.
Of course.
Okay.
Underworld for teens.
There you go. It's Underworld with a love story. And
there was a love story in Underworld.
Well, well, there wasn't, but in this one there is.
I'm totally blowing it for you.
Okay. But so when the movies first came out, people all of a sudden started, oh, well, you're Team Jacob because the girls were like dying over Edward, but they were also dying over the werewolf, which was being played by Taylor Lautner. He's
wah 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 wah.
Yeah,
that
well,
means
anyway,
nothing to me.
Okay, well, they're I guess they're two good-looking guys.
Okay.
So somebody started that. Well, are you Team Jacob or are you Team Edward? So the girls were like, no, I'm Team Edward because they liked the guy Edward.
Uh-huh.
And then of course, you had girls that were totally like falling for Taylor Lautner, which was Team Jacob. So that's how that whole thing started.
Lovely.
Yeah. So
superficial.
Robert's Team Jacob.
Sadness. All right. So Well, that pretty much covers all of our topics once again.
Oh, that you kind of I got
But wait,
sidetracked
there's
with
more.
movies. If you've not seen it, I recommend taking your kids to go see it.
What?
The Guardians, the animation movie.
Okay.
I think the Rise of the Guardians. There you go. It's an awesome animated film for kids.
Cool.
I enjoyed it. I'm not big on the
Fun
kid
for the whole family.
Yeah, I'm not big on the animation films, but it has to do with the Christmas, and it has to do with the importance of behaving and
so there are lessons to learn.
Yeah,
That's
you
good.
have to stay, and pay attention to the movie, but there is a message behind the movie, and it's wonderful for all the family. It's short, not too short, not too long, so the kids won't get restless.
Right.
It's right at an hour and 10 minutes, so it's just perfect.
Just right.
Yeah.
Good.
So I recommend it.
Very cool.
I recommend that if you want to catch a good movie.
All right. Awesome. We are a full service podcast here.
Yeah, definitely.
We're looking out for because we sound like Bill O'Reilly because we're looking out for you. The spin stops here. No, the diving does not stop here. So, all right. So we always love you guys checking out the podcast. I do get comments from people who lurk out there, like, "Oh yeah, I did catch the podcast." Usually they're catching on YouTube after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to find out why more people don't check it out live. Maybe it's the day and time. I don't know. And we might look at altering it if it's feasible for us and it would actually get more people to watch it live. That'd be great. But you can always check us out, interact with us through, of course, you can catch Scuba Bob via his email address, rsgarza821@yahoo.com, or hit him up on Twitter, rsgarza435. And, of course, me at robert.wade@setifox.net, or check me out on Twitter, robertcfp. And you can always catch our, we post the podcast links, etc., at our Facebook page, facebook.com/delriodiveclub.com. Just look for us there. And we'd love to interact with you if you have any ideas, suggestions. If you're in the local area and you want to actually participate in studio, we do have an extra mic here.
Please.
And you think it may be a kind of a scary thing. As you can see, we keep it pretty moving, and we'll draw you out. We can draw just about anybody out in a conversation.
I've been fortunate to be here with two guests. We had Troy McGonigal, and which was pretty interesting. And then of course we had Nick Van Winkle.
Yep, that was a good show too.
That was an interesting show.
Because he was in the process of getting certified.
Yeah, I think that was probably the funniest show.
It was hilarious.
All the jokes, all the innuendos aside, I think it was just hilarious.
It was a fun show.
But it was cool to be
some of those parts would show up in a best of.
Being able to draw that out of someone was perfect, because you could tell he was kind of like,
what do I do?
Do I do it? And he just kind of went along with it, and it was so cool.
It was fun. So we love to interact with you folks. So by all means, check us out. And we love your comments. Love to hear from you in the chat room. Like I said, you can always jump in the chat room. If you go to
the chat room.
That's right. If you go to ustream.tv and you check out the channel, you get in the live, you join the chat room, and we'll be there. We'll interact with you because we're not afraid to do that. We love talking to you. We love chatting with you.
I got to come up with a voice.
You do.
I got to come up with some kind of voice.
Almost felt like I was going to become Davy Jones there for another. Girl, look what you've done to me. But that's going way back to, Brady Bunch when he was on that episode, and Marsha was all...
Davy Jones.
And we, of course, obviously we upgrade the last of our machines here to Windows 8. So we're still working out actually some interesting little issues because the programmers have not fully completed the Windows 8 updates to this. They fixed some things or updated some things to take advantage of Windows 8. Other things they haven't, and so I, as well as other Windows 8 fans, are working with them to get some of those updates done. So they keep saying the new version is imminent. So hopefully we won't, as with any new version of anything, you never know what kind of glitches are going to run into. So if we run into any technical difficulties that with a new version coming out that prevents us from doing the podcast, we'll of course post it on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
And I'll tweet out on it. But we definitely appreciate you checking us out. And so that pretty much finishes up, and we will see you next week on another episode of Two Guys Who Dive.